Welcome, John.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Let me just say on a note of sadness, really, this is the first PCS conference I've addressed without the presence of Simeon Andrews. Some of you may know Simeon, recall him. Simeon was our organiser for Union Services, who organised the parliamentary group, and tragically he died this year. I just want to pay tribute to him and his colleagues for all that they've done for this union over the years, supporting the parliamentary group, helping us in our negotiations with ministers and supporting every campaign. Now, Simeon, like me, was a Liverpool supporter. And I don't normally get silence at that one. And when I spoke at his funeral, and there's a story about Simeon. Simeon, some of you know, was an actor. He was a member of the RSC company at one point. And when he went to Liverpool and went to matches, he didn't like to be seen as a Cockney up in Liverpool. So he used to put on a Scouse accent, and he was so good at it, all the people who sat around him he was really endeared to them. And they'd invite him home and things like that. So he had to develop a whole Scouse persona and history and backstory. And then after about 10 years of that, he thought, I'll sod this, I can't keep this up. So he moved seats. But I tell you, Simeon will be with us when we win in Kiev, in spirit, if not in body. I want to echo Mark's sentiments as well. I want to thank Janice for all the work that she's done over the years. We've worked alongside each other now on picket line, on campaigns, on negotiations in representations to ministers. And this union couldn't be better served by her. And I just want to say thanks for all the support you've given me personally as well, Janice, throughout that period. Congratulations also on Mark becoming president of the TUC. Lynn Henderson up in Scotland and Siobhana in Wales. Now, if that doesn't terrify the establishment, nothing will, quite honestly. As was said, unfortunately I couldn't attend last year. We had the tragedy of the Manchester outrage, basically. And we paid tribute this morning in Parliament as well. And it's interesting, isn't it, that it was the emergency services yet again showed through their bravery, running towards the crisis to help people in that period. So I pay tribute to them now. But also last year, we were in the middle of a general election campaign that Theresa May had called. She was 24 points ahead in the polls, and she was going to wipe out the Labour Party. That really worked out well for her, didn't it, really? Where we are at the moment is exactly as Mark has said. We've got a weak and actually crisis-ridden government that is in office, not in power, clinging on to office as best they can. I'm not sure when they'll go. I don't know whether it'll be the autumn, that their internal contradictions mean there'll be a general election, or we're in it for the long haul. Either way, we're now preparing for government. We're preparing for government. We're taking the manifesto, every policy, we're translating it into an action plan, a manual, implementation manual, and yes, even drafting the legislation. And I was at the TUC General Council only a couple of weeks ago, and I said to them, as I've said to you, when we go into government, the trade union movement is coming into government with us. No longer will we tolerate what happened in the recent past, where some in the Labour Party saw the trade union movement as some form of embarrassing relative. It was the trade unions that founded the Labour Party, and it will be the trade unions that support it when we go into government and be with us in government when we implement that manifesto. But it's more, to be honest, it's more than about a manifesto when we go into government. It's more than a change of government as well that we're seeing at the moment, potentially. It's the end of an era. It's the end of an era that's, I suppose, the sort of darkening twilight of neoliberalism. That era of greed and of the rigged economy and the levels of exploitation that have taken place within our society as a result. In a few speeches I've been saying this week, just in 1 week, it was all epitomised for me. Saturday before last, we were on the TUC's march, demanding a decent pay and respect and trade union rights. On that march, behind me, and I walked with them, were the youngsters from McDonald's who've gone out on strike on a regular basis. A couple of years ago, I went to the Bakers Union executive, said, would they support the fast food campaign? Would they engage? And that union wholeheartedly threw itself into that campaign. And these are the next generation of trade unionists in some of the most difficult circumstances, standing up no matter what level of victimisation that's thrown at them. And then alongside them in that, holding the same banners, was TGI Friday. Again, the new generation of workers coming through. And then behind us were the cleaners from the universities, been out on strike as a result of outsourcing. And beside them, the Deliveroo workers, who are now being threatened with illegal action to try and break their union. And I tell you, it was a matter of pride to be alongside them in solidarity, standing up for their rights. That was the Saturday. Can I just give a hint, though, to PCS? When we deflate that PCS balloon, can I suggest we stop filling it with helium? Because when I bumped into the PCS, they still had squeaky voices for the hour afterwards, after they deflated it itself. Internal joke, those ones who remember it were there. That was the Saturday. On the Monday, I went on the silent walk for Grenfell. One of the most moving and dignified occasions I've participated in. And what happened there was 72 people died. They died in the wealthiest borough in this country. And they died because that borough was more interested in saving money than saving lives. But that community came together and still come together. They're now at the inquiry, and they're not going to go away until they get justice. That was the Monday. Then on the Wednesday in Parliament, we had the report on Carillion. I just quote Frank Field, I don't do it often, but on Frank Field, directors filling their mouths with gold whilst they neglected their responsibilities to protect the workers' pensions. 2,000 people at least laid off, and others to follow. That was the Wednesday. And then we get to the Thursday, and it all degenerates into absolute farce with the East Coast Line. Privatised 3 times, brought back into public ownership 3 times. I said to Grayling, you've nationalised more railway systems in this country than any Labour minister for 6 decades. And it shows you what privatisation was about. What does that mean? What did that week say to me? It said to me this, that people have had enough. That they're willing now to challenge the system. They want change. And to be frank, we are that change. The Labour and trade union movement now are that change. We're the ones that will make those changes by making sure that we elect a Labour government whenever that election comes. And I'm grateful for the support that PCS gave candidates, selected candidates that you identified, that you supported in the general election last year. And it helped us greatly to secure those victories that we had. But people want change, and that's our responsibility. And as Shadow Chancellor, I'm explaining what that change will be. We're going to create a prosperous society. We're going to create a prosperous society which provides people with the richest quality of life possible, yes, and tackle the challenges of climate change. But the difference between us and the Tories, whenever it comes, is that we share the prosperity. We make sure everybody shares in that prosperity. And we'll do it in a number of ways at the level of the firm. We'll make sure we double the cooperative sector. We'll make sure that workers, when firms are sold on or taken over, they have the right to own. We'll make sure there's profit sharing and shareholding sharings as well. And we'll make sure that there are representatives, worker representatives, on every board and on supervisory boards, on remuneration committees that will determine the remuneration, not just of the workers, but the directors themselves, and pay and close the pay gap that there is at the moment. And yes, we'll make sure that we democratise our economy at the national level. We will bring back into public ownership water, rail, Royal Mail and energy. We will bring back all those elements that we need to ensure that we have democratic accountability. And yes, we'll ensure, we've launched a review this weekend. I launched a review of regulation. Because what's interesting, we've learned it as a union as well. Whatever happens when companies go bust and they go into receivership, it's interesting, isn't it? Never the accountants or the auditors get the blame. In fact, the accountants then come in, the auditors, the big four companies, then come in as the receivers. They always line their pockets. Well, we're going to review the role of the big accountancy firms. If it means breaking them up, we will break them up, but we'll ensure there's proper regulation right the way through. But part of the issue around public ownership is about the future of our public services. And the future of our public services means this, that we'll introduce a fair taxation system. We'll make sure that HMRC is properly staffed. And yes, we'll make sure properly staffed at national and at local level with local officers again. We'll make sure that they have the resources to collect the taxes that we need. Yes, there'll be an increase in taxes on the top 5%, and we'll withdraw some of the corporation tax cuts. But by using an effective and properly resourced HMRC, we'll ensure the rich and the corporations pay their taxes. We will end tax evasion and tax avoidance that's happening at the moment in our country on an industrial scale. And that means we'll be able to afford the health service that we want. We'll be able to afford the education system from cradle to grave, free at the point of need, just like our NHS. And yes, it means scrapping tuition fees so that our kids are not burdened with a debt for the rest of their lives. We believe that education is a gift from one generation to another, not a commodity to be bought and sold. But yes, we'll ensure that our public services are properly funded and properly staffed. But that means also that people are properly respected and properly rewarded. So for PCS members, it means this. Yes, we will end the victimisation that's taken place against this union. We know this government tried to break this union at every level, in national disputes or in local representation. We will end the victimisation and bring to book those ones who've implemented it as well. We will restore collective bargaining at the national level for the civil service. And that means ending the pay cap once and for all and making sure people have a decent level of income as a result of the work that they undertake. But it also means as well, I give you this commitment, we will end the PFIs, we will end the outsourcing, and we will start bringing people back into the public services again where they should be and where they should never have been thrust out of. We believe in public services because they're not only the most effective and efficient, they're the most democratically accountable as well. But all of that rests on one other commitment as well. You know as well as I do, the best way of protecting your standard of living at work, the best way of ensuring you're not victimised, the best way of having health and safety at work is to ensure that you join a trade union. But in joining a trade union, we need to ensure as a national government that we have proper trade union rights. And we're not asking for the earth. We're simply asking for a government to abide by, well, legislation and laws that operate across the globe, the International Labour Organization conventions. And that means, yes, setting up a Department of Employment, making sure that Department of Employment introduces a real living wage, enforces it and regulates it, make sure employers abide by the International Labour Organization conventions. And the first step on that, in the first 100 days of a Labour government, is scrapping the Trade Union Act the Tories introduced to undermine trade unionism in this country. But it isn't just about having a Labour government elected. Elections take place, but victories take place before that election. They have to. And that's why it's important that the Labour Party is not just seen as an electoral force, but is seen as a campaigning force as well. So that's why, under the Jeremy Corbyn leadership, the Labour Party is no longer just a party that comes along at elections, knocks on your door and drags you out to vote as best they can. This is a party that's now a social movement. Over 500,000 members and still growing, campaigning in virtually every community. So that means if you take the decision to go out and ballot and take industrial action to ensure you have decent pay, to ensure that your union has a proper voice in those negotiations to secure that decent pay. I tell you, if you take industrial action, we'll be alongside you on every picket line we possibly can and every support that we can give you. Because to win elections, you have to win people's respect. And that does mean winning their respect by standing alongside them in solidarity. That's the commitment that we give you. This is a time in which many of our dreams could be realised. I told you before, I joke about it. A few years ago, I was on the back benches and basically looking for a quiet life, looking to drift into retirement, sitting at the back of a hall like this, moaning that was all going wrong because no one ever listened to me, that sort of thing. And then Jeremy Corbyn came along, we won the Labour leadership. And to be honest, for many of us here in this hall and throughout the country, it means that our dreams and ambitions can now be realised. There's a potential of a socialist going into number 10. And if he appoints the right person, a socialist going into number 11. What does that mean? What does that mean? It means, and I've said it on this platform time and time again in speeches, we campaigned around that slogan, another world is possible. Well, I tell you, with the potential of this Labour government, with the mobilisation of our movement, this trade union coming into government with us, another world isn't just possible, it's now in sight. So I echo what Mark has said, carpe diem. This is our moment. Seize the moment. In solidarity, we work together in every coming struggle. And then also to support the election of a Labour government that will deliver the society that we want. A society that's radically fair, radically more democratic, radically more equal. Yes, prosperous and economically, environmentally sustainable, but where that prosperity is shared by everybody. There's a word for it. It's called socialism, solidarity.
Council delegates and observers against the conference, but to hear words of solidarity such as that from a shadow